Zeke, the hardest working man in sports and gaming. And let's talk basketball, but specifically, let's talk Derrick Rose, Chicago Bulls. Conversations. Just conversations. Everybody, if you know me, then you already know I'm a Bulls fan. Uh, and I'm a big time Derrick Rose fan. I am. I really am. So there's conversation out here. So Chicago Bulls, former Chicago Bull BJ Armstrong, who is now Derrick Rose's agent, has said that if the Bulls are interested in talking to Derrick about coming in as a free agent during this offseason, that they will listen to those offers. So immediately, right, as a fan, because obviously, if you don't know me, I am a sports writer. I've been a sports writer for the last 10 years. I primarily cover MMA, boxing, and sports video games, but I do and have covered NBA basketball, specifically the Bulls, at length in the past. So, but I want to say this, I want to preface this before I get into anything. All of us who cover whatever sports you cover, first and foremost, you're a fan, right? So and every sports writer has a favorite team, right? I don't care what they say. They grew up watching somebody before they were a sports writer or what have you. So they all have a favorite team. Bill Simmons doesn't hide his, and I traditionally don't hide mine. So I'm like the black Bill Simmons in a way. A little less paid, but a lot less paid, but whatever. So the Bulls are my squad. Derrick Rose is my guy. So as a fan, initially, right, the first thing you think is, wow, my favorite player started off with my favorite teams coming back to my favorite team. Immediately you're excited, right? And as a fan, you kind of have this feeling, right? So I had a similar feeling, not exactly the same, but not this past offseason, the offseason before that. Dwayne Wade, who's an Illinois native, not a Chicago native, but Illinois native, he came back and played and signed and played with the Bulls, right? And now, as my basketball mind, immediately when this was signed, is the first thing I said was, "What? Why? What is that?" It didn't match, right? The Bulls needed to be rebuilding at the time; they were resisting it, and they went and signed a veteran guy who was essentially just pissed off because the Heat didn't respect him, and so he went to the closest thing he knew to home, which was his original home, but he'd already pretty much just connected with Miami. The whole, Dade County, Wade County thing. He only came here. It's almost like you're in a relationship with somebody and you still love the other person, but you go and you go back to an old girlfriend who you don't really feel that same way about, but you go back to her just because you're trying to land someplace friendly. It was almost kind of like that, right? So it didn't work out. He ended up going back to Miami. Obviously, he's in his last season in the NBA right now. And so he's getting all the love on the farewell tour. Got a weird hairstyle. He had looked like a bike helmet. Just a lot of stuff is going on, right? So it didn't work out with the Bulls. It was never a good basketball decision for Wade to come back to the Bulls. It just never was. But as a fan, if you love Wade, and I do like Wade, I think Wade is one of the top shooting guards in the history of the game. I would take Wade over Kobe. Don't at me. But I would. So I like Wade, obviously. From Illinois, came to my favorite team. Oh, great, right? But not great. And I kind of knew it wasn't great. So now I'm thinking about this Derrick Rose situation. And to me, you got to look at it from three different standpoints. The first one is the fan, which I've already talked about. Favorite player, favorite team, makes you excited, right? Now let's look at it from Derrick Rose's standpoint, just individually. Now, I don't want to put my own hopes on Derrick Rose because I don't know individually what his goals are as far as basketball. I don't know. I know as a fan, I would love to see Derrick Rose make the Hall of Fame. As of right now, being 100% honest, if it all ended today and Derrick Rose just walked away from basketball, he's not a Hall of Famer, I don't think. And he would be the only player in NBA history to ever win an MVP and not go to the Hall of Fame. Nobody else in the history of the game has ever done that, but no other MVP has ever had the injuries and had the statistical and the overall fall off that Rose encountered. Now he has ascended back up, not quite to that level, but is clearly shown that he can still play on a high level, right? averaged 18 a game. Shooting took a big dip towards the end of the season, but he started dealing with some injuries, which of course is the issue with him. Is we're always going to be talking about durability. So where he is, like I said, I would love to see him go to the Hall of Fame. But I believe that in order for Derrick to get to the Hall of Fame, Derrick needs to accomplish three things, and I think that would lock it up for him. I think he needs to win a championship. I think he needs to win a six-man, and I think he probably needs to make another All-Star team. And I think that if he were able to do those things, that I think then it becomes like an open and shut case for him, very close to it. Because you got to think about it. If you look at his overall career, right? Because you got to remember, the Basketball Hall of Fame is the Basketball Hall of Fame. It's not the NBA Hall of Fame. So you take into consideration the single year in Memphis when they go to the national championship. You take into consideration him being one of the top high school players in the nation. You take into consideration the fact that he won the Rookie of the Year. You also take into consideration that he was the youngest MVP in history. He's a multiple-time All-Star. And then now you see this secondary career that he would be having after the injuries. And you'd see him go to a couple more All-Star, maybe an All-Star game or two more for the rest of his career. You see him get a six-man. He'd be the only dude in NBA history with a six-man, a Rookie of the Year, and an MVP award. Nobody else in NBA history has that collection of individual awards. And he'd also then obviously have the championship ring, which is a huge deal. I think that really gives him a resume where it's like, you got to look at him and Grant Hill and say, this is a comparable case, right? So I would love to see him do that. The problem is, I don't think he can do that in Chicago. And as much as that pains me to say, because it's my squad and if I could pick any place for him to do it, I'd want him to do it here. But let's be realistic, right? Derrick's 30, okay? And he's had a lot of injuries. So having a lot of injuries, how is he going to be able to accomplish those goals with a team that's not close to winning the championship? How is he going to be able to do that? That's the question. And I don't think that the Bulls are in a place where they can offer him a championship winning situation within his window of time. Because I think Derrick needs to get this done within the next 2 to 3 years max, right? 2 to 3 years max. I also believe he needs to be in a role where he's coming off the bench and like similar to what he was doing with Minnesota and for a good part, even though he was starting sometimes because Jeff Teague was hurt. But coming off the bench as the primary scorer, able to create for some guys. Obviously, I think the best situation for him is playing with a rim runner and two shooters. Rose, a rim runner and two shooters, and maybe one other guy that can create, even if that's in the starting lineup where he comes in and plays with the starting lineup and gives the starting point guard a blow, whatever it is. 25, 28 minutes is what he needs to play at the most, right? And I just don't know that is the situation he'd have in Chicago, right? So for his standpoint, if he's trying to accomplish those goals, I don't know that Chicago should be the number one choice. But then again, it all goes about it's all going to go along to who offers him the deal, who offers him the most, where he wants to be, right? Now, let's look at it from a Bulls standpoint. The Bulls absolutely need a point guard. They do. That's just a fact. I have long said, if you've seen it on this channel, you've seen me say, the Bulls, I would love for the Bulls to get Ja Morant. If I were picking, I may even take Ja over Zion Williamson. I'm pretty sure that I would. And it's not any type of insult to Ja. I mean, to Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson is a freak of nature. Like, he is insane, right? But for what the Bulls need and for the type of player that Ja is, I think Ja Morant has some De'Aaron Fox, Russell Westbrook qualities. I think he is the type of point guard that can become among the 5 best point guards in the league in a 3 to 5 year span. I think that he could do that, right? You factor that in with what has suddenly become a somewhat promising young core with Zach LaVine, Wendell Carter Jr., Larry Market, and Otto Porter. And you put Ja in that place, and now you're like, whoa, this looks pretty interesting. So obviously signing Rose wouldn't mean you can't draft Ja. As a matter of fact, it might augment the situation because now Rose comes off the bench. He's able to be a mentor for young Ja and the whole thing. Like that whole nine, but Rose gets a chance to do his thing when he's on the floor. Maybe he finishes some games, most games, or what have you. He can even play on the floor with Ja at times to end the game if they want to go small, whatever. So it makes some sense in that way. It makes more sense for the Bulls than I think that it does for Rose from a pure basketball standpoint. But then again, we don't know where Rose is mentally with this. Is it more important for Rose to be closer to home, or is it more important for him to chase a championship? Now, when he signed with Minnesota, signing with Minnesota was partially because there weren't a ton of teams showing him a lot of interest, right? And so he had to go here. He had to take this certain time contract and prove himself. Thibodeau gave him that opportunity, and he made good on it, right? He should have more suitors this year. And I think that he would have some suitors for a championship level team who's looking for a six man. I know people are going to hate to hear it, but that might just be Golden State. It might be. And I'm not a huge Golden State Warrior fan at all. I don't hate them like a lot of people, but I'm not a huge Warriors fan. But for the sake of Rose getting the ring and the potential six man and all of that, I would not mind seeing Rose go to Golden State to get his money and to get his accomplishments and to complete his legacy. So while there's a part of me that claps it up for the thought of Rose coming back to Chicago, I don't know that that's the best thing for his legacy, but he might deem it the best thing for his life, which of course is more important. So we'll see what happens. That's all I got on the Derrick Rose situation. I appreciate you guys watching as always. God bless and peace.